Here we go.
You locked in for that podcast?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm just, this weekend is coming to just a crashing end. Not in like an actual crashing way, but it's just, sometimes it feels like you go into the weekend like full force. no nonstop, all gas, no brakes. And that's how it feels right now.
Does it feel that way, or does it feel the opposite? 'Cause it more seems like you're maybe like crawling toward the weekend.
No. Well, like it can't get there. No, I mean, like I'm coming at the weekend as hard as I can. I'm just coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
It's a lot, man.
Yeah.
We're podcasting a whole hour early today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
which
like,
never happens.
So like work coming up to this was just like, gotta get it done. Change it. I'm like 30 minutes late getting here, and then we're gonna do this, and then I gotta go shoot an event.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna go home, and I'm going to change my bike chain and re-index my gears, and then tomorrow I'm gonna get up at 6 a.m. to get out by 7 so I can ride 60 miles, and then I think I have to work after that. So
your next 24 hours are really booked up.
Just totally jammed up.
Yep. Seems
all spoken for. Whew. Just be that way sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they be that way.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Yeah. Anyways.
So today, as we record this, was the alleged day that the Ricoh GR4 was going to ship.
Well, that won't matter because none of us ordered one.
None of us did, right? So I pre-ordered a GR4.
What?
You knew that.
I did.
Yes. And B&H has had a message on their page saying expected ship date is Friday, September 12th, which is the day we're recording this. And then at one point that date disappeared. And I should say, while that date was there, other retailers like Adorama, for example, had other dates like September 29th. A lot of places don't have a date at all. But people kind of had this September 12th date in mind. And then at some point, like a couple days ago, that date disappeared from their page. So people started wondering what's going on. And I think somebody like contacted them, yesterday or today or something to find out what the deal is. And it sounds like
B&H or Ricoh?
B&H.
Okay.
And so it sounds like B&H hasn't received their shipment of cameras. They're like waiting for information from Ricoh on when the cameras will ship or when they will arrive. And so it's just like this big question mark of like, when is this camera going to release? And, obviously people online are talking about that. And one thing I heard is that Ricoh is like maybe kind of conservative the way a lot of Japanese companies are with business stuff, to where like they probably didn't overproduce these cameras and probably be in pretty tight demand at release. And some people were saying Ricoh probably isn't used to this type of demand for their cameras, because when the GR3 came out, people weren't quite as crazy about compact cameras as they are now. So, maybe like a lot of new things here.
People are crazy. You're right, Daniel.
But one theory I saw that I thought was kind of funny was that it was related to this other recent event that happened a couple days ago. I don't know if you'd seen this. I put a link in our show notes, but there was some sort of mishap at a port in California, and
dozens of cargo containers go tumbling off ship at port of Long Beach. Investigators seek answers.
So there's pictures of this thing, and it's just like all these cargo containers just fell off the side of a ship at the port. Bad news.
Whoops.
And somebody was wondering if the Ricoh GR4 cameras are in one of those containers.
Who knows?
So, let's hope not.
Maybe that they were all on that container ship. It's that's how things get around, Daniel.
Yeah.
In the physical world.
I guess so. So
they don't just move through wires and pipes.
Sometimes it's easy to forget that. But so we'll see when that camera ships, and we're still waiting on the Blackmagic Pixis 12K to ship too. That's another camera that's been announced, and it was supposed to come out back in like July, and I think the last I've heard is like October or November or something. I don't know. I understand the challenges that these companies have with stuff like this, but I kind of wish they'd tell us the date and then stick to the date.
Do you remember what the date was originally?
For the Pixis, it was the beginning of July. It was like July 1st.
Yeah. No, but I meant for the GR.
Oh, I don't know if they said. I don't think they had ever said what it was going to be, but I think people were kind of under the impression it was going to be September. Maybe they said that, maybe they didn't.
I was going to ask if maybe they meant next year.
Maybe so.
Maybe sometimes it feels like that's the case.
Yep. You can still find occasionally you can find GR3s and GR3Xs used, but they're pretty high. They're like $1,100-$1,200, which is more than those cameras cost at release. And that's just it's the world we live in now.
Just is. Okay, Daniel. Enough of this preamble. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
All right. Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
Daniel, IBC 2025 is like this week, September 12th through September 15th. I know you may know that as the International Building Code, but that is actually also the International Broadcasting Convention.
Isn't it also a brand of root beer?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that
a lot of overloading of that term.
Lots of overloading of that. A
It,
lot of things want to be the international blank blank.
It does explain why there have been so many camera and camera gear announcements this week.
Yeah, like on iPhone Day, the number of camera news things that were just like, we don't care what Apple's doing because they're not a real. That's not a cinema camera. We're going to talk about real cameras. Like Apple can go do their thing. Let's all talk about real cameras.
It didn't make sense that they would do that on the same day or even the same week until finding out that IBC was happening. And it's like, oh, okay. Like they needed to announce this stuff so that they could show it off at that show.
Exactly. And there was quite a few things that were announced, Daniel. And we had to make a decision on how to prioritize what to talk about. And I don't know if your priorities were correct as the person who put this show note together.
You don't think so?
I don't know why we don't have immediately 2 back-to-back fully dedicated episodes about the GFX Eterna 55.
We do need to talk about it because they finally, what is it that they actually did? They basically announced the price and the specs.
Ship date, final specs, and name.
Yeah, it's a lot of big news.
And they've started releasing, like, here's things that were shot with this and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of cool information. Just saying.
I don't know. It might have to be next week.
It'll happen. It'll happen. We got to get to all of it eventually.
I'm wondering if we're going to see reviews before then.
Maybe.
Like will CineD do their lab testing before it releases, you think? Or you think that stuff's going to wait?
I don't know. Did you know that Petapixel was given one early to shoot a documentary?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
How'd you hear that?
They posted a video about it.
Oh, okay.
It's like a whole thing.
I think I missed that one.
Yeah.
There's been so much news this week.
So much
hard
news
to keep
this
up.
week, right? I think that of the 15 cinema cameras that were released this week, I think the GFX Eterna 55 may be the most interesting.
Well, I mean, it's Fuji's first one, so I think for that reason, if no other reason, it's pretty interesting.
So let's talk about less interesting cameras.
We just need to let the GFX Eterna marinate a little bit.
It's got to breathe. We've got to build in anticipation.
Yeah, we'll get to it next.
We'll save the best for last. Maybe we don't get to it next. Maybe we talk about the C50 next.
Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe we talk about the iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about cinema cameras, then I mean, yeah.
Exactly. If we're talking cinema cameras or cameras that have gen lock.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have any cameras that have gen lock.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah.
Yep. Guess I don't own a cinema camera.
No, I guess not.
So, what is the red V-Raptor XE?
So Nikon announced 2 things on, I think it was on overnight, Monday into Tuesday. The one that like really stole the spotlight was the ZR, which we're going to talk about later. But then it like kind of at the bottom of the press release, like this is like the same press release, at least on the page I saw, they were just like, oh yeah, there's a new version of the V-Raptor. It was like, guys, it kind of seems like big news. Like maybe maybe you should have made that its own press release. I don't know. But yeah, this is the V-Raptor XE, where E, I think I have it in the notes, see if I've seen it, but E in this case stands for essential, which we've heard that before.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't E also mean like cheaper for some reason? Like now it's made out of plastic, or
it sure seems that way.
They put their own cell modem in it, or
yes,
it's like
yes.
The Econo box.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Nikon has put their own cell modem in this thing. I don't think that's true.
No, I don't think it has.
So there is a V-Raptor X,
yes.
which I think that camera originally did come out in January 2024. It's not that old. I'm not sure if the original one came out then, or if that was just whenever they added the Z mount to it. I can't quite remember when Nikon bought Red. I think it's been more recent than that. So my recollection is that the V-Raptor X came out with RF mount.
It was like May 2024.
Yeah.
The V-Raptor was originally shipped with R mount. They released the Z mount versions of the V-Raptor
basically
earlier this year.
Basically, yeah, sometime after Nikon bought Red.
Yeah.
And this is not the V-Raptor, it's the V-Raptor X.
Half the frame rates, half the price.
So the V-Raptor X was like $30,000, and it's a full frame global shutter camera, and
as Red does.
Yes, and so now they have the XE, which is $15,000 body only.
Wow.
Yep, and it has the same sensor.
Ooh.
And yeah, like you said, it's basically just half the frame rate of the V-Raptor X. So that means 8K up to 60, 6K up to 80 frames per second, 4K up to 120, 17. And 2K up to 240.
17 stops the dynamic range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything else is basically the same as the V-Raptor X.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of other little features they left out. These are things that I think they're part of something called Red Global Vision that they announced with the V-Raptor X, and they kind of seem sort of like experimental beta type features. Mm-hmm. One is something called Extended Highlights, which I think does something to try and boost dynamic range. Another is Phantom Track, which has something to do with virtual productions. I didn't quite understand this, but I think it's something about storing like different, like separate.
Is that where like you can, whenever you shoot, they break the alpha away from the main track so that you can, like, there are cameras that will shoot, like if you're shooting a green screen, mm-hmm. you can sync up or a blue screen, you can sync up the camera with the wall and then have it alternate, like,
it has something to do with that.
The picture mm-hmm. and then a solid color, and then you can like separate those two streams so that you have both green screen mm-hmm. and with the whatever the video wall built in.
Exactly.
Or you like can split off the alpha track. Those things are separate, but it's
Yeah, so I think it's something about that. I think it's what you're describing there. And then the third thing is that they have some type of module that you can add on to these cameras that basically is for doing cine broadcast type stuff. So if you wanted to like live stream from these cameras, and the XE does support it, but I think there's a better version that the X supports. So the XE supports the Red Connect, but it doesn't support the cine broadcast module.
Oh man, but the cine broadcast module, dude.
I know. So there's a couple of little things like that, but everything else is the same as the V-Raptor X. They even said that they're going to release a firmware update for this one that'll make it have much faster boot up time and less power
they're going
consumption.
to release a firmware update for the XE that they just announced to make it faster.
Yes, that's what they said.
Sorry, let me just back up for a second. Hold on. Mm-hmm. They announced a camera that no one's touched and then said they're going to release a firmware update to make it faster.
I feel like we've heard this before, but yep, that's pretty much it.
Why ship it? Why not just wait for the firm? I don't understand.
I think you know why.
But don't tell people it's slow.
I think you know why.
They're just telling people like, sorry, we're going to fix it. Here you go. buy this
No.
$15,000 camera. The fix is coming.
You misunderstand. The current one is the same speed as the V-Raptor X. They're saying they're going to make it boot up faster than the V-Raptor X with an upcoming firmware update.
If this is half the frame rates of the V-Raptor X, then is it arbitrary? Are you paying less for the same hardware?
Good
and
question.
then can you like buy an unlock? Or is this,
I doubt
if it's the
it.
same sensor, are they putting like a different processor in it? And now the processor is worse. Is it the same body? Because I would assume that if it's the same body, it would have the same thermal rejection capability.
Mhm.
I don't understand what's physically different about this except for the lack of the support of the Cine broadcast module.
I do think that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer. I mean, I feel like as a user, this is a pretty good, like it's a pretty good bargain. You know, if you're somebody who is shooting, you know, let's say like normal movie type stuff, maybe you don't need 8K faster than 60 frames per second. And this thing's literally half the cost of the V-Raptor X. So yeah, I don't know if they're software limiting it or what. It seems like it would be weird to do that, but whether they are or aren't, it feels like this is a pretty good bargain.
It's just so confusing. It's more streamlined, obviously. That's what's better about it. The streamlininess. You can still get it in RF mount. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you had, I think if I was buying this camera, you know, new, I'd get the Z mount because I feel like Nikon, you know, has more options that are more affordable, but it's cool to have RF mount. You can buy, they have like an add-on pack that you can get that includes some stuff. One of the things it includes is a PL adapter that has a electronic ND built in. So whether you get Z or RF, you can easily adapt it to PL.
Which you're probably going to want to do anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like the mirrorless mounts are just a way to give you more mount opportunities. Like if you have
For sure.
a Z mount, you can now mount EF and PL, which are going to cover a huge range of lenses.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of Z cine lenses. There's more like RF cine lenses. But, and like Nikon doesn't support Sigma, so there's not like a bunch of Sigma Z lenses.
On the other hand, though,
supposedly,
if you're gonna pick any lens mount, Z mount has the shortest flange distance,
right?
It's probably the best thing to pick.
It's the most adaptable for sure, and you're gonna be able to use the Nikon native stuff. And there's rumor that Nikon is coming out with their own cine lenses, and so I think that we're gonna see more support there. Z is the most future forward version of this. Unfortunately, the ring around the lens mount is gold, not red. So, if you're picking based on color, you got to pick the RF mount.
You think so?
Yeah, I just still don't understand what they're doing and why you would like. Why is this worse, if not arbitrarily worse?
Yeah.
Is it like just packaged differently? I don't know, Daniel. I guess it's cool that it's cheaper. Maybe it makes it now harder to buy a Burano instead of a V-Raptor XE.
I mean, I think it puts it in
a different category camera.
It puts it in an interesting competition, though, because at $15,000, suddenly it's like directly competing against something like the Ursa Cine.
Yep, the Ursa Cine 17K even. It's like smack in the middle of the two.
The 17K is like $30,000.
Yeah, it's like just over 20.
Okay.
But the Ursa regular is like 12.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's smack in the middle between the two that you could be in Ursa land or Burano land.
Ursa land.
An FX9 is what, $12,000?
Yeah, that's around there too.
Yeah, so it's like FX9, C400, like all of a sudden now you're in the we wish we made cinema camera territory, but with an actual cinema camera.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you know, prices everywhere are going up. Tariffs are a thing, all that. And I think these companies all seem like they're trying to find ways to compete at lower prices. Like I think Blackmagic just recently lowered the price of the Ursa Cine.
That's cool.
Yeah, which was neat to see. And then there's this. So I don't know. I just thought it was a cool option. I mean, I think if I was in the market for a red camera, I would give this a thought. To me, it doesn't feel like the things that it's missing from the V-Raptor X are really things that matter all that much. So, you know, literally half the price. Can't go wrong with that.
Makes me makes you wonder again, when is the Blackmagic Pixis 12K coming out?
I know.
Oh boy.
I'm hoping by end of the year.
We'll see.
Yep, we'll see.
Anyway, I don't think there's a lot of meat on this bone, Daniel.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I think
just not that interested in it.
I mean, I'm always interested in a V-Raptor, but now there's like 7 versions of the V-Raptor.
There are.
And it's getting confusing.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. You could get the V-Raptor 8K S35, which is Super 35 and has a rolling shutter.
What?
And costs $3,000 more than this XE.
What? Maybe it has better dynamic range.
Could. Maybe higher frame rate.
Maybe. I mean, it's a rolling shutter, though.
Yeah.
Isn't that one come in white?
Does it?
Does it?
I don't know if it does or not.
There was one V-Raptor that they shipped in white.
Yeah. They made like a special edition of it or something.
I should have made the ZR in white. Then it really would look like a ZVE1.
Yeah. Maybe they weren't allowed to. For legal reasons, they could not make that camera white.
Oh boy, let's talk about it, Daniel.
All right. Take a break and then we'll come back for that. We'll be back in just a moment, but we wanted to let you know that if you'd like to support the show, you can now subscribe to us on Patreon. It helps cover our hosting costs so we can keep the show running, and you might find an occasional behind-the-scenes post on there, like some photos we've taken recently or a mini review of some new gear. If you're interested, you can find us at patreon.com/cameragearpodcast.
Okay, Daniel. Everyone's just waiting with bated breath for this thing.
Yep. Would you say that they're ready to enter a new era of limitless cinematic possibilities?
Who isn't?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying.
Exactly. That's why I'm like chomping at the bit for that Pixis 12K. Anyway, Nikon ZR, man.
Nikon ZR. I was honestly very surprised to see this release.
I thought that something like this may come. We've been kind of waiting for Nikon to take the red juice and start sticking it inside the Nikon thing, kind of like the Leica juice inside the Panasonic lenses. Anyways,
I follow you.
Very similar. In this case, also painted red inside, but just for a different reason. Mm-hmm. So not surprised necessarily.
But I was surprised at the timing. Like I for some reason, I just thought it was going to take longer than it did, I guess.
Well, Daniel, some may argue that it should have.
Interesting.
So ZR, I think the name is perfect.
Is it?
It being, okay, it's a little Nikon heavy, but Z, because of the Z mount, R, because red.
You think that's what it, do you think that's what the name is supposed to mean?
You put the Z next to the R.
You put the Z with the R. Yeah, you combine
Z
them.
plus R is Nikon ZR. I mean, it's nailed it.
I that is right up there in terms of being a marketing slogan. That is right up there with a new era of limitless cinematic possibilities.
It's coming. Yeah. Just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
The only way I think it's confusing is because having that R on the end always makes people think of resolution. Because think about like the S1R or the A7R.
It's a capital R. So
it is on the other cameras too.
What? No, it's not. Hold on. Everyone just wait for a second. It is an
R on every camera I've ever. The A7CR, also a capital R. Always. Oh,
that is capital R.
Always capital and always means resolution. And then Nikon's coming in here with a 24 megapixel camera and calling it something that ends in R.
R1, R2. Yep, that's capital R. Do you ever have this thing where like you're typing something and then it autocompletes? And you're like, oh, I typed something wrong and I want to like backspace. And so you hit the backspace exactly enough times to get back to where you're trying to go. But one of the backspaces gets taken up by the autocomplete and you keep ending up one letter short and then you keep trying to backspace and you get stuck in a circle where you're like backspacing and then typing and you're not deleting the thing you're supposed to be deleting.
I can't relate to this feeling.
Oh, okay. Must just be me.
Just you, I think.
$2,200.
Also surprising. I feel like So not having seen the specs, I think maybe a little less surprising after you look at the specs, maybe. Having not seen the specs, I would have expected, I don't know, 3,500, something like that. I know Potato Jet did a video where he showed some of his cinema friends the camera, and they all guessed that it cost a lot more than it did.
Because we're so used to cinema things costing cinema prices.
They sure seem to.
For arbitrary reasons.
Yep. But this one's $2,200.
I think that they are pricing this very aggressively.
I mean, especially now, especially in the current climate.
Mm-hmm. I think that this does kind of align with Red's ethos of trying to make good, affordable cinema cameras, like $3,000, $3,000, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because Red really was when they started, like they were one of the affordable choices when, in a world of not very many affordable choices. I mean,
their accessories are accessory-essive.
Yes.
And their cameras aren't necessarily cheap, but comparatively to like movie cinema cameras, substantially cheaper.
I mean, if you compare it to like a Venice or an Alexa or whatever, which I think, a lot of people would put those in the same category, right? Like in terms of like cachet.
Yeah.
And yeah, Red is much cheaper than those.
Right. And they always push the specs, right? The first one's set 8K for a cinema camera, right? And so if you wanted high resolution, good price, good quality, good color, Red's always been there.
Yep.
Good option. So this being at $2,200 kind of seems to maybe fit that Red ethos. It is basically the same price as the Z6 III, which maybe makes sense.
Because it's very similar to the Z6 III.
This is basically a Z6 III.
Yeah.
Like this
in
is...
a lot of ways it is.
This is, and I'm sorry, just a Z6 III with a red codec thrown in.
And no EVF.
Right.
Which is, maybe a pretty big omission.
Yeah. So that's it. You guys can tune in next week. Thanks for listening.
I think we've got a lot more to talk about. I don't think we can cut them off yet.
Okay. All right. Ships October 20th. Cool. Let's get into a little bit of these specs here. 1.4 pounds.
Seems pretty lightweight. That is fewer than 3 iPhone 17 Pro Maxes.
Oh.
For a frame of reference that everyone will be familiar with.
Yeah, but you can't use Final Cut Pro and Final Cut Camera to operate.
True.
If this supported the Red app, you could.
That's true.
But it doesn't. Daniel doesn't have any of those cool Red features.
But it does have Genlock. Unlike this camera.
The iPhone has Genlock.
Yes.
This does not have Genlock.
This does not have Genlock.
Because this is just a Z6 III. I do think that the controls are interesting.
Yeah.
If I recall, I haven't looked at the back of this thing in a little bit, but it's like missing a wheel. Like there's not enough jog wheels.
Yeah, there's only 2, which is a problem because there are 3 common settings that people like to change when they use cameras.
Well, if it's a cinema camera, right? So just set the frame rate and then use the other 2 for the things that matter.
You would think so, but didn't Gerald say in his video that you can't like lock one of the dials to ISO? I think was what he said.
Oh, interesting.
So you can do the thing where you hit a function button and it switches the dial, but you can't just say this dial is always ISO, which is kind of a problem.
It is kind of a problem.
But it's a software problem, so that might get fixed.
And from what I understand, Nikon loves a software update.
They do. They're better about it than a lot of other companies.
They are better about it than a lot of companies. That is true. I just wish that maybe they had put more dials on this thing. That's kind of the story all the way around, is this camera is so small. And it kind of gives me like Sigma, what was it?
FP?
Yeah, Sigma FP feelings, where the concept was that they make this camera as small as they can, and you're starting with like the core camera component, and then you rig it out to be whatever you want it to be. And that way you have the flexibility of this is really small as a crash cam, or this is a full rig cinema type camera. And so maybe that's kind of what they're going for here. But unlike, say, the FX line, there's no screw holes in this thing in order to make it mountable.
That was a weird choice because it's a very blocky, minimalist design. Yeah, I mean, it looks a lot like an FX3 or something like that, right? And it is strange that they didn't, cover it in 1/4-20 holes.
But that is the story to me about this camera. There's a micro SD, a micro HDMI port.
Mm-hmm. That's also baffling, I think.
Right, and the bottom has like 1/4-20, and the locking pin, like the non-twist pin for the 1/4-20, is to the side, not forward. And like the SD cards are in the battery slot, and it doesn't have any screw or mounting holes. It doesn't have a grip on it, and so it's like, hey, let's take away the grip. Let's make this as small as possible. Let's do all these compromises to make it tiny so that you can then build it out however you want, perhaps. But then they don't give you all the things that you need to build it out in order to like use it in that way. And then maybe it's like, okay, well, let's make it just a standalone camera that's meant to be used as its own thing. Well, now it doesn't have enough of the features that you need in order to use it as a standalone camera. Like the 4-inch back screen is super, super good at 1,000 nits. So maybe you don't need a monitor, but it doesn't have waveforms and false color and all these things. And so you kind of need a monitor.
Are you sure it doesn't have waveforms? I feel like it does have waveforms.
It doesn't have false color.
Yeah, I don't think it has false color.
And it has poor, from what I understand, the exposure tools aren't great.
Yeah, I mean, it physically, it kind of reminds me of like the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, like that style of camera, because that kind of has the same sort of situation where Blackmagic made this camera that, is ostensibly a good cinema camera, in a lot of ways, but everybody that gets one ends up having to add all the, add a cage, add external power, add all the stuff to it just to kind of make it usable. And, it's like the accessory companies kind of, met the need, and you can buy a million different cages and stuff. And I'm sure it's going to be the same with this camera. I'm sure Small Rig probably already has a cage that you can add to this, and that solves like the mounting issues. But yeah, it does kind of feel like, what market were they trying to hit with this camera? Because it feels like for that cinema use case, it's kind of like it's missing some things that seem like they would be obvious additions.
It feels very confused. They shipped this thing with 32-bit float audio internal and a multifunction hot shoe, but then didn't ship a top handle.
That hot shoe thing is interesting because Nikon hasn't ever had that feature before. This is the first time they've released the first camera they've released that has such a thing. And I think they showed some examples of like how it might be used. I mean, it sounds a lot like the Sony one, where it's basically a digital interface. But yeah, it was kind of strange. And I think maybe in the presentation they showed off a mic that used it, but it did feel kind of like
it was a super weird shotgun, not shotgun mic. It's forward thinking, right? Yeah. Get the thing on the camera, put it on the other cameras also, and then start building out an accessory ecosystem. I have no problem with that. It just is another example of this like weirdness where we're going to give you a really good monitor on the camera, but we're not going to give you all the features, but we're not going to give you a way to get out of it. And we're not going to give you a good way we're not going to provide you with a decent grip on this camera, but we're also not going to give you ways to mount other grips in a reasonable way. And I don't know, it's just like this weird, frustrating thing where this is a super, super cool, very, very capable camera and just like budget cinema camera. Awesome. But weirdly compromised.
Yeah.
Like you said, like which way were they trying to go here?
Yeah.
Were they trying to go for just grab and go, shoot, only need the camera and a lens, or something that you can build out?
Yeah. And I'm sure most brands would say, well, like we want that to be both, but
then put some freaking screw holes in it.
Yeah.
Apparently it feels like it's built like a tank. People are like, wow, this is really hardy camera. It seems like only one YouTuber in the whole world is able to make it overheat. It just seems very well, solidly built.
Yeah.
Put some screw holes in it.
It feels like they went a little bit too far with making it small. Like that, I think that's what confuses me most. Like I think we can all appreciate the idea of a crash cam, but it feels like if they had made it just slightly bigger, they could have added a full-size HDMI, added a full-size SD card, and had the cards accessible separately, like from the side. Well, I mean, maybe they had good reasons for not wanting to do that, but it feels like they could have done the two things I said and added screw holes. None of that seems like it would cost more. Like those aren't like expensive things.
It's not like they're
And it would've made it
recycling the
much-
body.
It would have made it much more useful. Yeah, I think that's a good point. This is not the Z6 body. It's not like what Panasonic does, where they, have kind of used the same body for a couple of cameras. So yeah, just that's what confuses me, I think.
Me too. So the form factor and the layout and everything, it's cool as like a really small, neat little cinema camera, but weird compromises.
One thing to mention on the physical aspects, so it has a zoom rocker on top, kind of neat. I
assume that supports the new, what is it, 24 to 120 f4 power zoom?
Exactly, yeah. So you can do that. I think you can also, they have some like high res zoom modes, kind of like the crop zoom type things. You can set it to that. Another neat thing you can do with it, if you're not using a power zoom lens, is set it to be a focus check zoom, to where it doesn't get recorded, and it's just like, you can punch in to
really
check focus. I thought that was really clever.
Neat. That's a nice feature.
Yeah.
It's the 28 to 135 f4 PC. Yeah. Sorry.
It has a photo video switch, but probably not the camera you'd use to take photos, but you do have that, and you have separate settings for photo and video.
You do?
Yep. And it's got 3 function buttons on top that are arranged the proper way, unlike the Fuji X-H2S.
So they went through the effort of making separate photo video menus, but they didn't use the red video menus.
Well, I don't know how different the menus are, but I just know that the whatever settings you set in the photo mode, do not carry over to video. I mean, we're seeing that on more and more cameras. The S1 II is that way as well.
It's still the same Nikon menus, though.
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Right, it's the same Nikon menus. It's just your settings are independent for photo mode and video mode. Mm-hmm. But there's maybe an argument that they should have done the Canon R5C thing and shipped the video menus from red.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
And then ship the Nikon. I mean, like, that would have been wildly different how to control your camera philosophies.
Yep.
But they've got to put the R in the ZR, Daniel.
They don't have a whole lot of the R in the ZR.
Not so much. Do you think that the lack of grip is good or bad on this thing?
I think it confuses me in the same way that the overall small size does. I always feel that way about grips. I don't see where it really saves you much, because as soon as you add a lens, you're kind of getting all that space back. I guess if you're I guess the only thing I can think of is if you're traveling and you're going to travel like without the lens attached, maybe you can slide it into a smaller pouch on your suitcase or something. But if they had made the grip bigger, they would have been able to put the battery the other way, and they would have been able to have the cards load from the side. So for that reason, I think they should have made the grip bigger. Yeah,
I think that depending upon what happens with the cages, I'm thinking of how I typically use cameras for video, especially if I have a top handle. And I think I could live without having a hand grip as long as I had a cage on this thing and I was rigging it out. But maybe kind of an issue, especially if you're using heavier lenses and not having anything to get a good purchase on.
It's a little unfortunate. Like the way I've typically done my camera rigs, I plan to hold the camera with that right grip, and my left hand may either be using a top handle or the lens or whatever. But usually you have useful settings, like on that side of the camera, so it's nice to be able to grab it, and you can't really do that with this one.
Hilariously, the small rig cage for this that's on B&H, it has a giant hand grip built in.
That does not surprise me
which
at all.
Is maybe a little hilarious in that it's like that could have been space that we used for something else, like dual CF Express cards.
Yeah,
love that so much. That's so good. Okay, so maybe we missed there. Do you think that the battery is a problem?
So it seems like it uses the same battery as most similar Nikon cameras, like the Z6 III. I think it's probably fine. So Petapixel said they got like an hour of continuous use, but I know like when Gerald tested it, he got over 2 hours recording.
He wasn't the only one. There was another YouTuber or another video or review that I read where they did, even at like 6K 60 shooting RAW, which is less processor intensive than shooting H.265, albeit shooting RAW, they got over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which this has the classic Nikon record limit of 2 hours and 5 minutes.
For whatever reason. That makes no sense.
I mean, if you're going to limit it to the length of a movie, they should have cut it off at 90 minutes, in my opinion.
I think the battery life's fine. You can always use a dummy battery. You can always power it with USB-C. There's a balance where you don't want the battery to be too big. It's probably more beneficial to have it be a common battery, so I think it's fine.
I think the battery life on this is totally acceptable. I'm more, and we've already just complained about it enough, but I think the battery placement's maybe a bit of a problem. How they had to configure it and what it did to the card slots.
It's fine from a battery perspective. Like most cameras load the battery from the bottom like that, but because it doesn't have a grip, the battery is kind of like parallel with the camera rather than sticking out in the grip. And so because of that, the cards can't fit into the side because the battery is there. And
the battery door is too close to the tripod.
It's very close to the tripod screw.
And you have to mount the tripod screw sideways, not forward. And so it's even more exacerbated as an issue.
Yeah. And I think in addition to all that, it has CF Express Type B, which you have to use if you're recording RAW.
Yeah, that's all you're gonna use on this camera.
And then it also for some reason has a micro SD card, which you can't do simultaneous backup recording.
Can you drop proxies to it?
I don't think you can, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can. But another problem with that card is that you can't even pull that card out without taking the battery out of the camera.
Yeah.
So it's just like that whole setup feels
compromised.
Compromised, kind of like poorly considered.
They should have made the door open the other way. They should have had it drop instead of from outside in, inside out. That way you could open it instead of it getting stuck half open if you have a tripod on.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe have it slide out like a slide out door instead of a hinged door.
Slide into the bottom of the camera.
Sure.
Yeah.
That, I don't know.
Yeah.
That way it's not getting in the way and you can at least get the stuff out. Not being able to take the micro SD card out is a little frustrating, but also who's going to use micro SD on this thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not what it's for.
I would just leave the micro SD in there and copy things off with USB-C.
Yeah.
Just never take it out. Treat it as internal memory.
There you go.
And then backup or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe that's how they intended it.
Maybe it is. I know that for shooting video, I'm rarely ever dual recording. And so it being, here's your one CF Express card that you're going to record to, maybe not a super huge problem. I didn't see if USB-C recording to an SSD was an option on this.
I didn't hear about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, no one talked about it, so it seems like it's probably not a feature, which may be a frustrating miss.
Yeah, especially with the micro HDMI.
I can think of another camera with this nearly the exact same sensor with very similar video specs that does have all of these things.
Can you now?
Yep. And maybe even more features.
Yep. Yeah, maybe even more features.
You'd have to pay another $1,200 for it.
Yeah.
But
yep,
it exists.
Yep. That is quite true.
And it's made by Lumix. Anyway.
Yep.
No fan.
No fan.
Fine.
I mean, it sounds like it is fine because, like you said, I think the only overheating I've seen was Potato Jet testing it with his incubator thing, which maybe not a
running at a solid 104 degrees or whatever.
Yeah, maybe not a fair test, but
the most extreme test
seems fine though. I mean, all things being equal, if you don't need a fan, I'd rather not have a fan because that's just something else to break, some other place for stuff to get in. So,
right.
Cool.
Yeah. But more weather sealed without a fan,
exactly.
Which is good. It seems to be the same sensor that's in the Z6 III.
Yes,
now,
which is also, as you were kind of alluding to, the same sensor that's in the S1R Mark II, or
right.
the S1 Mark II.
Yeah. So now, if you ask Nikon Red, they'll say, yeah, same sensor, but also like the way that they're using it, the way that image pipeline works, it's not really the same sensor. And I think that's kind of the story with the Lumix as well, right? It's by spec. It's like there's no way there's 3 of these 24.5 megapixel partially stacked sensors out there. So probably like the same chip, but maybe slightly different processors, slightly different pipeline, slightly different configuration of how it's circuited into the camera. So kind of the same sensor. Yeah. And what it seems though is because of that, kind of the same performance.
Yeah.
So all 3 of these cameras, the Z6 III, the S1 II, and now the Nikon ZR, are all in that 7 to 9 millisecond rolling shutter area with the partially stacked. The dynamic range seems to take more of a hit on this sensor comparatively. I think you can get about 14 stops of just pure like raw stoppage out of the dynamic range.
Yeah.
But in most situations where we're seeing this camera, the actual usable dynamic range once you start doing noise reduction is in the like 9 to 10, maybe 11 stop range. And you're going to kind of have to really work it to get into that 12 or 13 that we're seeing out of some other cameras.
Yeah. So that's got to be something in their image processing, like whatever they're doing past the sensor.
Well, that's the case for the Nikon Z6 III as well. This sensor is just a little crunchier.
Yeah.
It has a tighter dynamic range. The Lumix is getting around this by doing their dual work, what do they call it? Dynamic range boost, I believe.
Yeah, which does hurt your rolling shutter.
Right. This sensor has a base ISO of, I believe, 800 and 6400, if I recall. And I think what Lumix is doing is they're shooting at both base ISOs, combining it and giving you like an extra stop on the top end. And so at least with the Lumix, you have the option of saying, I'm willing to sacrifice rolling shutter and shoot at 15 to 20 milliseconds, 25 milliseconds, and get a full breadth of dynamic range because I have this really wide scene.
Right.
Whereas with these Nikon products, you're kind of just stuck in that like 11 range at best, which is maybe fine. Like, but it's just going to look a little crunchier, right? And I mean, everyone's into that right now because we're all shooting on tiny little freaking, CCD 6 megapixel point and shoots.
That's fair.
Who needs 17 stops? Yeah. That's what I say.
I mean, the sensor seems fine to me. I don't have any concerns about it.
I love it. I think it's great. It's just, you gotta know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And I think that from a versatility standpoint, and we'll talk about it more, I think the S1 II is maybe a more versatile camera option because you can now, I get dynamic range boost, and also I get fast, and I get a pick.
It's nice to have that choice. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Which this camera does not seem to really give you.
Where this camera excels is in its available codecs.
Yes.
You can shoot in like 3 different versions of RAW.
Yeah,
none of them are B-RAW.
NRAW, ProRes RAW, and Red RAW.
Red RAW, which is R3D-NE.
Yep, which is a kind of like a new version.
This is the only camera that has R3D-NE. It's a slightly different version of Red RAW. It doesn't seem to have like quality levels where normally like original versions of Red RAW, you would be like pick your compression ratio.
Which is how Blackmagic RAW is.
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly the same as Blackmagic RAW because Blackmagic RAW, I believe, is partially demosaiced before the compression, which is why they don't have issues with the patent.
Yeah.
Whereas Red RAW is not demosaiced ahead of compression. And so there are like extra files and things. The like original like Red Code RAW is like AVC HD, where whenever you take it off a camera, it's like a folder and it's and so like the container, like MP4 MOV, the container of the codec is a folder structure.
Okay.
R3D-NE is not. You actually get a R3D file, and so they're using their own R3D container.
I see.
And you can bring it into your Red processing software, or you even bring it into Blackmagic, and Blackmagic totally supports it.
So I think you kind of left off part of what we were saying. Like, so yeah, the original versions, you picked your compression ratio. So you'd say like 10-1, 3-1, whatever the choices were. And then they went to like their newer cameras. You pick like basically like
low, medium, high.
And it seems like people, so this one only has one, but it seems like people were saying this is maybe around like the medium in terms of file size, that sort of thing.
And compression quality. Yeah. And so if you're going to shoot 6K 60 in R3D-NE, that's going to be 4 gigabits per second, 4,000 megabits per second. Or was it megabytes?
Well, you said gigabit, so
it's probably megabits. Yeah. It's got to be the little ones.
And this is a 12-bit codec.
Right, it's 12-bit RAW, which technically speaking, if it's 12-bit RAW, you should only be getting 12 stops of dynamic range. But supposedly you get 14.
Yeah.
Wonder how that works. Wonder how that math works. Anyway, 6K 24 is like 1600 megabits, and 4K 24 is like 715.
Okay.
So like comparatively, if you were going to shoot in ProRes HQ, which is not a RAW format, but fairly uncompressed. That's like 750 megabits per
And this
second.
camera, to be clear, this camera does support ProRes HQ as well.
It sure
As
does.
well as H.265.
Right. ProRes RAW is a variable codec. So there's not like a steady rate for ProRes RAW. It is pulling it based upon like how much delta there is between frames.
Okay.
ProRes RAW is a pretty like light RAW codec. It's fairly innovative. I think NRAW is also a variable data rate, if I recall. And I know that the Nikon Z6 and then now also this camera has a real hard time with those variable rate codecs.
It's like it can't predict how much record time is left on the card.
Yeah, it just can't figure it out.
Which is a pretty big problem for certain types of work.
Yeah, it sure is. But you can't record for longer than 2 hours and 5 minutes between every shot, so maybe that's not a problem.
That's true.
Maybe it is a problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
So this Red 3D NE seems R3D NE seems pretty good as far as a red codec. Like it's mostly the same red raw, just a different compression ratio, kind of more prepackaged. You get all the red color science stuff with it. But this is the only red thing in the camera.
Yep.
They put red on the back. They wrote cinema on it. And all you really get that's red is the R3D NE.
Yeah.
If you shoot in H.265, it's Nikon color science. If you shoot in N-Log or ProRes or NRAW, it's all Nikon color science.
It kind of makes you wonder, and I think when we talk about, kind of like what is their market, it kind of comes back to that too. But if we think about the inclusion of this feature, I guess I'm trying to figure out what is the scenario where somebody is shooting red raw on this camera. Do you think that it's to use as like a B or C cam for other red cameras? Or do you think that people are like, would people be using this kind of as like their only camera and they're shooting in red versus one of those other options? And if so, what is red giving them that they wouldn't have gotten with something like NRAW or ProRes RAW?
Red raw codecs are well respected in the industry, and people want to shoot in red raw. And I think that like that's reason enough to shoot with this camera is in order to get access to R3D in the cheapest way possible.
Well, it's definitely cheaper than any other camera,
and
not by a lot because the Komodo is only $3,000. But
it should pair well with other things. If you're shooting on a V-Raptor, you're going to get way more dynamic range. And so you might be able to, you might have a higher contrast image with the stuff coming out of the ZR because it has that shorter dynamic range. And so it'll prospectively look like it has a bigger contrast just out of the box.
If you are shooting in like a, shooting a larger production, you can probably control the light. So maybe you don't have super high dynamic range scenes.
Right, exactly. And being able to hit 12 stops, like, you're going to be able to capture most of it and it'll be fine. It's just maybe those wider things you say for the A cam. And so this could be a decent like B or C cam. I think for people who are on a budget, this unlocks opportunities for them in order to get into red raw workflows that will make them be able to produce a higher level final output than something that they could before.
Well, and maybe if you're trying to learn and stuff, it can be good to be able to just play with that stuff and use it. So from that perspective, it's cool that it's making it more accessible.
I'm surprised that it still ships with NRAW for one, and that they're not like getting rid of NRAW.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, we use NRAW and red raw. Secondly, I was expecting this, like, let's shove NRAW into a Nikon camera, not NRAW, red raw 3D, R3D. But I wasn't expecting them to build a dedicated camera for it. I thought we were going to get like a Z9 and the Z9 was just going to have R3D.
Yeah.
And maybe we still will. I don't know. But is this just the camera firmware that we're going to get going forward and they thought to release it at first with the ZR? Or is it always going to be a ZR like Nikon Redline that are going to have the R3D codecs?
Well, that's what's kind of interesting because this camera is they say like their first one in the Z Cinema line. And as you said, it says Nikon and Red on the back. So yeah, I think one question would be, are all, video oriented Nikon cameras in the future going to support this, or will it only be Z Cinema cameras?
Hard to say. I did find somebody on Reddit who was taking NRAW off of like a Z8 and then bringing it into DaVinci Resolve, but telling it that it was R3D.
Interesting.
And they were getting interestingly similar development out of the NRAW.
As in, it may be the same?
As in, it was maybe the same, maybe very similar. And so there's like some conspiracy floating around here that Red Raw 3D NE is also just NRAW under the covers, but I don't expect that that's the case if these are both on this camera, though maybe the difference is the color science. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
I think the R3D is the most interesting part of this, and if I had this camera, I would want to be able to shoot in R3D as much as possible, but then I would also want to be able to supplant that with H.265 if I needed to.
Yeah, that's a big thing that this camera has that like I've complained about with every Blackmagic camera. I'm like, why do you guys not have H.265? So I think it's a great feature to have.
And not being able to if you shoot an R3D and you shoot an H.265 and then you develop the R3D and you go to mix the footage, they look different because they have different color processing pipelines.
That is
because you're
annoying.
getting Nikon color out of the H.265 and you're getting red color out of the R3D, and that is just like almost a deal breaker for me for this camera. The fact that like, great, we have a compressed codec, but it doesn't match the raw codec you want to shoot in.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine that it's something like the red imaging pipeline is not something they can run on a phone. Like they can, on a camera. So they can record the raw, but I mean, I don't know if red cameras support H.265. I would imagine they don't. And so maybe they just can't, like, they don't have the code to develop the red raw on the camera. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, but it comes down to like, why can't you make the color look the same?
Yeah.
Like you could take like, here's what R3D looks like, and here's Nlog. Let's make them look the same.
Yeah.
Put a LUT on it, and now just change the final output of I don't know, man.
You would think they'd be able to do something like that.
It seems like it should be doable, and they just basically didn't redo the H.265 pipeline to make it match the R3D. They just put R3D in this, and then, but truly everything else this camera's built around is more Nikon stuff.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a strange prioritization to include H.265 but not do that.
I think it's just really obvious that this is the Nikon ZR, not the Red RZ.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yeah. It does feel, it feels a lot more weighted toward Nikon than Red. No doubt.
So as far as the things that you can shoot with this, in RAW, you can shoot 6K 60, 6K 24, which is the full sensor. You can shoot open gate, 6K 60. You can shoot 4K 24. In NRAW, you can shoot like pixel for pixel 4K, which is a Super 35 crop. You can shoot open gate, but you can also shoot in the full frame 4K RAW, which is like the fake RAW line skipped garbage.
Yeah, and I don't think it looks that good, right?
No, it's just kind of terrible. So there's still like there's a few like weird things with NRAW on the Z6 III, and those have made it into this camera as well. So like you kind of have to be careful of that, but maybe you're just shooting in R3D, so it doesn't matter.
Maybe so. So.
What haven't we touched on here, Dana? We talked about the base ISO. We talked about the dynamic range.
I didn't see that many people talking about autofocus, but mostly because they all said this is just Nikon autofocus. I don't think there's just nothing notable about it.
Yeah, but like Nikon autofocus is good.
Yeah.
So it's cool that it's there. It's cool. It's got all those features. Yep. Having something with like really good raw codecs and autofocus, you don't usually see all those together. So
and it has 7.5 stops of IBIS, which is also, not something you'd normally see on a cinema camera.
Yeah, for sure. Is this the cheapest internal RAW shooting camera?
It's possible. I don't know if the S52X can.
I don't know. I don't think it can shoot RAW internally.
Yeah, you probably do have to use
I don't even
SSD.
think the FX3 can shoot RAW internally.
Well, probably not. The FX3 is pretty old at this point.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that shoots RAW internally. Yeah, well.
So maybe.
Well.
Pretty cool.
Because you wouldn't be shooting it on a monitor because you're not ever going to connect a monitor to this one.
I mean, honestly, that seems like what they're intending, because they did that micro HDMI thing and they made the LCD, noticeably bigger than it is on most other cameras. It really feels like they don't want you to attach monitors.
Oh, I mean, this thing's it's like basically you have a small HD monitor slapped to your camera. It's 1,000 nits which is awesome.
Yep, it's great.
It's 3 times dimmer than the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and smaller because that's 6.9, whatever. 4-inch screen. It is, I guess that's 16:9, so it's still pretty big. It's 3 million.
I think it's actually 16 by 10.
Sorry, thank you. 16
because
by 10.
they wanted to be able to put the settings outside of the video frame.
Right, which great, love it. It's 3 million dots, which is for camera screens pretty good.
Yeah.
From pure resolution, that's still like 720p.
Yeah.
It's like 1280 by 1800.
Yeah, it's not much, but it's very competitive among camera screens.
It's very competitive. You need the low resolution and probably for battery savings on cameras. And it's just maybe a little frustrating from like a monitor standpoint on cameras. It's like, this is the best thing ever, 720p.
I think the only real disappointment is that it's just a normal articulating screen. I think that people have started to get a little spoiled by some of the newer stuff that has the extra tilt hinge on it. And on a camera like this, one problem with that is that if you have the normal screen, if you have stuff plugged into the side of it, then the screen kind of interferes with those cables.
Nikon hasn't shipped a dual tilt flip screen yet.
No, I don't think they have.
I'm always sad when I see cameras without that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd still say it's on like less than 50% of cameras, but it sure is becoming more common.
Both of the ports on this get in the way of the tilty screen.
Yeah.
Particularly the microphone port.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the issue. If you're trying to externally power it with USB-C, or if you have a microphone plugged in, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. They need to get that multifunction hot shoe going for audio input at 32-bit. And then you just don't have to plug anything into it. And then it is a running gun camera.
That's true.
I feel like that would be, it seems to me like that would be the coolest use for this is don't plug anything into it.
Yeah.
And shoot raw on this super cool tiny camera. But you're probably going to want good audio input. It is neat that it has the capsule mic system and you can shoot with 32-bit float audio just onto the camera. Yeah,
you don't have to use an external thing. So like on the S1 II and on the FX3 doesn't support 32-bit float, but like the S1 II does, and you have to add like a $500 XLR handle thing to the top of it. To do that. This camera, you don't. The actual mic jack supports 32-bit float, which is cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It has IBIS in it, so like it's stabilized. Yeah. It almost feels like this would be a really cool vlog camera because it's so small and light, and it has a giant screen.
Yep.
You don't necessarily even need an external microphone at this point because of the capsule and the 32-bit float. You can just like work that in post with all the AI processing and stuff. You can probably make it sound decently good.
Yeah.
And it's got all the autofocus, and you just slap a small lens on this thing, and you're shooting your vlogs in R3D.
Yeah, and you don't care about the lack of a grip because if you're vlogging, you're holding on to that lens.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm just saying this is like we're going to talk about the competitors probably a little later on, but this is just a ZVE1 competitor, like so hard. It's the same price. The ZVE1 is just a FX3 and a tiny vlog body.
It does feel strangely similar to that.
Strangely similar. Anyway, so LCD is good. It can shoot stills, which is cool and weird. Maybe this would be a great stills camera. Do you think this would be a great stills camera?
Probably not. I think it'd be fine, but probably not. Probably not the camera you should buy if you want to do, a lot of photography.
I don't know. What if I bought this as like all stills, like no video?
I think people would wonder why not get a Z6 Mark III.
It's true, because the Z6 Mark III retails for $2,500.
Yeah, it's true.
You can actually get that for $500 off right now.
Really?
With the release of this, a Z6 III is like $2,050.
There's Nikon stuff is pretty cheap sometimes.
That's a really good deal, Daniel.
Yeah,
it was like a super good deal.
Yeah, it was a good deal.
It's a super good deal. Anyway, I'm looking at a ZVE1 right now. I've always wanted one of these cameras in white.
Yep. Yeah, you've talked about that.
I still want one of these cameras. It's so cool. I really want to know how heavy it is in comparison to this ZR. It is 399 grams. Well, but the battery in it is 384. Yeah, so it's like 120 grams lighter.
Yeah, it's quite a bit lighter than this. I bet the screen's not 4 inches and 1,000 nits.
Sure ain't. Sure, and the screen's probably terrible. It's a 1 million dot 3-inch screen.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Blah. Anyways, We talked about the battery. We talked about how terrible the stinking port is. We talked about how dumb the slots are. This thing can do, we mentioned 32-bit float internal and over the microphone. I saw somebody talking about that on a video. They're like, oh man, I can do 32-bit float. And they're wearing a DJI lav. And I'm like, you know that, like,
you know you're not getting 32-bit float right now, right?
just making sure we're all on the same page. Yes, your microphone can do it. Yes, the camera can do it. But the microphone doesn't broadcast in 32-bit float.
Yeah.
They were just so excited. I'm like,
still a cool feature, though. I'm glad. I mean, I'd love to see it on more cameras. I'm a little disappointed that the S1 II didn't have it internal like that.
This is one of the first ones that actually has it like built in. Most of the ones that we're seeing, you have to have the handle. I can't think of a camera that straight up has it built in like this.
I think this is the first one. I do know that a lot of people are disappointed about the lack of an XLR input option because they feel like for cinema type uses like this as a Z cinema camera, they feel like it's a miss that you don't have some kind of XLR ability.
I think it's coming. I think that they take all the input from this. I think they're going to ship a software update and a handle, and you go 6 months down the line, and all of a sudden this camera is amazing.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. And if they plan on releasing more cameras in the same line, obviously that could be a product that they can share among multiple cameras.
Oh yeah, for sure. So did we talk through like what this thing can do as far as just pure video capability? I mean, I think we talked about all the RAWs and we talked about how it can do like, you know, all the 6K 60 and open gate. And I guess like, I don't know if it comes as obvious or whatever, because the Z6 III can do these things too. It can shoot like 4K 120 frames per second with like a 1.1 crop or something, like super tiny crop. And then you can shoot, I think like full, like whatever, 1080p up to 240 frames per second.
Right.
You know, it has like all of those really good fast sensor features.
Yeah.
From like a comparison standpoint, though, it doesn't do anything that the Z6 III can't do except for R3D.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything. Oh, sorry. I was going to say it doesn't do anything that the S1 Mark II can't do, but the S1 Mark II can't shoot 6K 60.
That's true.
It can only shoot, but it can shoot 5.1K 60. So like slightly smaller crop. You're not getting the full range of the sensor on the S1 II. Probably just comes down to processing. But other than that, like 5.1K versus 6K, basically, you know, if you're cross comparing all three cameras with this sensor, you're getting all those specs out of it, which is 6K 60 is not something like open gate 6K 60 frames per second. Not a lot of cameras can do that right now. You have to go all the way up to your $4,500 cameras like the R5 II and the A1 II and those kind of cameras in order to get those features.
Yeah.
So
that's a pretty good spec for this.
Yeah, getting that at $2,200 and internal RAW is like, holy cow. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
the value of this camera is incredible.
An XH2S costs $2,800 right now, Daniel.
That's so much money.
Just want to point that out.
Yep.
It cannot shoot RAW internal.
It's true.
But it can shoot ProRes RAW. And I have my ProRes RAW set up, and Blackmagic supports ProRes RAW.
I know. Woo! Exciting.
Boy, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that. Oh my gosh. Anyways.
Yes,
so I did like a little comparison between here. I was like, hey, ChatGPT, make me a comparison layer table between the ZR, the Z6 III, and the S1 II. So this information is probably wrong, but just kind of like down the line, these cameras are so comparable. Yeah. And it really just comes down to software features and whether or not the Lumix has more software features.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I would say body style too. Like if I'm comparing this against the Lumix S1 II, I mean, the Lumix S1 II has a real grip. It has 3 control knobs. Like it has the extra tilty screen. It has an EVF. Those are all pretty big like quality of life benefits that this camera doesn't have. So
do you think if you didn't need the R3D, do you think a Z6 III is a better buy over this?
I would think so. I think not having an EVF is a pain. I appreciate what they're doing with the bigger and brighter screen. I mean, it's obviously a big advantage, but
definitely
I like having an EVF. I can't remember, but I assume the Z6 III has the card slots on the side.
It sure does.
I feel like those things alone, I'd pick the Z6 III over this.
Yeah, and I think that am I right in saying that the Z6 III has a full size HDMI port?
I think so. I think most recent Nikon cameras do, and that's part of why it was so surprising that they used a micro on this one.
Yep. It has a full-size HDMI port.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's enough reasons right there.
Same price as the ZR. It seems like if you don't need the giant bright screen, like the super bright screen, and you don't need R3D, the Z6 III is a better camera? Question mark?
I almost feel like if you're picking this over the Z6 III, it has to be because you need the red.
Right.
And then the question is, why do you need the red? Do you need it to match with other cameras and you want this to be like a little crash cam? Okay, cool. Like that's a really good reason, and there's not anything else out there that's going to do that. If it's just because you want to play with red raw, I hear what you're saying about it being a better codec maybe than other raw options, but seeing as you can also shoot in like ProRes RAW or NRAW, I just don't know if that's enough of a reason to pick this over the Z6 III.
Or maybe it's raw internal, because I don't know if the Z6 III shoots raw internal.
I guess if you want like a little, compact, affordable thing that can do that, I guess that is a good reason.
Otherwise, it's... Yeah, I mean, that stuff looks like it shoots, internal, according to the internet here. You can shoot NRAW and ProRes RAW internal. So
on the Z6 III.
On the Z6 III. That's man, especially with the price drop on the Z6 III matching this, I can't imagine. Nikon shipped an update for the Z8 after it came out, and they basically gave all of the Z8 features, all the Z9 features to the Z8. And there wasn't really too much reason to buy a Z9 over a Z8 for most people.
Which honestly, I respected Nikon for doing.
And if they pushed an update to the Z6 III to add the features from this camera, like red raw, I don't know why you would buy this camera over a Z6 III.
There would be very few reasons to it. It would have to come down to the screen.
It'd be form factor, right? It's the Fuji conversation. Let's put the same processor and sensor and software package in all the cameras and then just make them all look different.
Yep.
That would be cool. I think it'd be really cool if they did that. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So what are the competitors to this, Daniel? I think that verbally Nikon is saying this is an FX3 competitor.
Yeah. Which, interesting, right? Because the FX3 is way more expensive than this camera. FX3 is like almost $4,000, I think.
I think that's why they're comparing it to it, is they want you to think, wow, I can get the same thing as an FX3 for half the price.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's possibly a competition, but I kind of hear what you're saying about something like the ZVE1 maybe being a more realistic competitor, because it just doesn't feel... I think ultimately this doesn't feel that pro to me is really what it is. Whereas like FX3, I feel like that is a camera that is small, but that you can do pro work with, and it's going to fit in really well, and like you can rig it and all that. And I don't get that same feeling with this camera.
Well, like the FX3 and the ZVE1 it's the same sensor package, and you can do most of the same things. I think as a comparison of like the FX3A, which came out this year.
Yeah, it's like the little refresh to the FX3.
Right, is $4,100.
That's so much money.
It is $2,000 more than this, and you're capping out at 4K 120 because it only has a 12 megapixel sensor in it. And I can shoot RAW, but you basically have to shoot it externally. It has double CF Express card slots. Maybe that's a benefit. Sure, it has IBIS, but the Nikon's going to have better stabilization. It has the internal RAW. The screen's better. I think from like just a straight up spec to spec comparison, if you ignore the full size HDMI port, and the riggability, the screw holes and stuff, the ZR is a better camera than the FX3A.
Which maybe a little less surprising, because the FX3A is basically an FX3 with a better screen, I think. But
not as good as this screen.
And the FX3 is not, like, it's a pretty old camera at this point. It's due for an update. So cool that they have kind of exceeded it on specs. But one has to wonder when Sony's going to release an FX3 Mark II.
Right. That has to be coming. But even FX3 Mark II, Sony's not going to make it this cheap. Nikon is purposely undercutting
for sure.
so aggressively here because they want that cinema crowd. They want to take all of the sub FX6 or even the FX6 people. Yeah. They want to just scoop it all up.
Well, because there's that, and then like other things in this market would be like the Canon C70 and then now the C50, which we haven't talked about yet. I mean, there's also Blackmagic making, like $3,000 cinema cameras, the Lumix S1 Mark II. Like, it's a pretty crowded area of cameras that are, say, like $4,000 and under that shoot, that prioritize video.
If you go back, we'll call it 3 years, when we were talking about $6,000 cinema camera category, because there wasn't really much underneath it. The $6,000-ish cinema category, we were talking about things like Red Komodos, and like maybe you were talking about Blackmagic cameras where they didn't have autofocus. And then Sony comes out with the FX3, and that was at the time like the cheapest, best, like cheap cinema camera that you could buy.
Right, for sure.
And since then, like the market has kind of like slowly filled out a little bit, but everything in it is old at this point. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of options here. And yeah, a lot of the mirrorless cameras are starting to really kind of fill out with their specifications, kind of like, the Lumix S1R2 and the S1II and things like that. And like, you're starting to see more and more kind of like raw codecs and things that you want out of a cinema camera, but not really like cinema camera, like a Sony FX or, a C80 or whatever. Even like the C80 is, whatever, $7,000 or something like that.
No, I don't think it's that high. It's probably 6,000.
Yeah, well, and that like just came out, right? But I think that these manufacturers are seeing there's this market here of people who want like cinema style cameras, or they're doing indie films, or they're content creators, or they're YouTubers, and their budget is like $6,000 or less for this camera. And I think that like Red wasn't been able to compete there because they don't have the manufacturing arm for it. But with Nikon buying Red, and with the age of everything that's in this category, I think that there's an opportunity here where these FX3 owners and these like Sony users and even Red Komodo users are using cameras that are 5, 6, 7 years old. Yeah. And they're probably thinking about upgrading. And Blackmagic is like, shoot, Pixus 12K, come on, let's go. And I think that Nikon's like, okay, we have Red now. We have the manufacturing arm. We have the cinema tops. Let's just go for this market. Like, let's go for it. And pricing this at $2,100 is them saying,
I think it's like $200, but
yeah. Well, even still, it's them planting a flag.
Yeah,
they're claiming territory here and like trying to pull people towards their market and using that Red cachet to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we wondered why they bought Red. It seems like this is kind of what we imagined they might do, and I mean, I'm surprised at how cheap it is, but we knew there was going to be some sort of Nikon Red amalgamation, and that's kind of what this is. But I think that Nikon was the late comer to this market. Canon and Sony and Blackmagic all had really established lines that kind of covered this. And yeah, it seems like this is a really aggressive entry, and they may be taking less of a profit on this camera to try and attract some people to it and kind of build up some critical mass of users.
I'm going to be really curious to see how we think about the ZR compared to the Canon C50 that just came out when we talk about it.
It seems like a direct competitor.
Yeah, except for the Canon C50 is $3,800.
Yeah.
I'm real curious to see kind of how that necessarily lines up to something like this. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of in a very, very similar vein. I think that they could have easily, for the ZR, charged $2,500 or $3,000.
Yeah.
And no one would have batted an eye and said it was a great deal. They are so aggressively going for the price on this.
I mean, now it's like you can get it for $3,000 with a good lens.
Yeah, pretty much. So curious to see where the C50 lands. I think the C70 is still for sale, even though it's a little old, a little long.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
And Super 35, not full frame. I think the C80 was full frame.
It is.
And that one's $5,500, which is an interesting option.
I think the C70 is like $4,500 now, maybe, somewhere in that range.
The Pixus 6K is there and available.
And it's like, I think it's 3,000 MSRP, and you can frequently find it cheaper than that.
And Blackmagic doesn't have autofocus yet on their cameras. They did announce that with the firmware at NAB.
I think they have, I feel like they have very basic autofocus.
It's coming, like real deal autofocus is coming.
I know continuous autofocus is coming. I can't remember if they have one shot or not.
So we'll see where that lands, but it's it's coming.
Yeah.
I think they do have one shot, but they don't. Like continuous is on the way.
When I think about Blackmagic, I think the autofocus matters slightly less because I feel like Blackmagic competes if you're wanting to use this as a cinema camera, like for your indie film. I don't think Blackmagic competes if you're using this for like run and gun or for vlogging.
Yeah, maybe not so much. ZVE one we talked about, exact same price, probably the closest match as far as size and feature, question mark.
I assume this one has more. So ZVE1 wins with all the AI stuff, but this one probably has better frame rates and codecs and all
the
that.
The autofocus is probably better, honestly,
True.
with the age of the ZVE1, and then the codecs are better and the screen's better and all this sort of stuff. So it's like you dig through the market here, you know, all the equivalent cameras, XH2S, S1, 2, waiting for Daniel to notice that I threw a Fuji camera in there, ZVE1, FX3. Like you know, these similar-ish cameras, man, it's like none of them really beat this on spec. They all have like maybe one or two things that are slightly better, that if you really need better dynamic range, or you really need to be able to rig it out, or you're like maybe autofocus is the absolute most important thing to you, or you have to have classic chrome, like you might pick something else, but honestly, hard pressed to do it. I think that even with all of the compromises around this camera, I think Nikon hit it out of the park. And even though it's like literally just a Z6 III, this feels like this is getting a bigger splash simply because it says red on the back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I definitely think that's true. And I mean, not just because it says red on the back, but because it actually shoots red codecs. Like, I think that's, people do care about that.
Do you think the Z6 III would have hit harder if they shipped it as like the Z6 III and then they had the Z6 III-R and that was not the high resolution but the red version?
Maybe. I thought you were going to say if the Z6 III had just had all these features, would it have? And I would have said no, because I think that they kind of needed to brand this differently to get the type of attention they want.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And maybe like that's the reason this exists, is as a branding exercise. Bring the attention towards using it for video. Make it a controversy because you called it a cinema camera whenever it has like there's missing a lot of the like cinema things that you might want. Get people talking about it, and then bring some of these features to your other cameras.
I think they're going. I mean, yeah, I think they'll bring it to the other cameras. I honestly think they probably will release more in the Z Cinema line.
Oh, sure.
This is probably the cheapest they'll get.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes you think like, hey, if I'm interested in this camera, but I feel like it's missing a couple things I really need, like I should keep an eye on Nikon, because what would they release at the $3,500 price or the $4,000 price? Like maybe they'll, like what can they do with twice what you're paying for this camera? You would think maybe some cool stuff.
I would hope that, you know, with the red Komodo being, what is it, $5,500 or $9,000 for the Komodo X, but the Komodo regular was still a global sensor and about $6,000. Red, I mean, red's global sensor, right? Like that's like the main thing with red. You know, having a global shutter, global sensor, like Sony's doing it, Red's doing it. There's not too many of these things out there. If Nikon, you know, the next thing that they do is, hey, let's look at what Red's doing. Let's look at their sensor pipeline, and now let's like make a Red ZR instead of a Nikon ZR, and that's in that $5,000, $6,000 price point. I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
How old is the Komodo X?
I don't know. A couple of years, maybe. I don't feel like it's that old. But.
The Komodo regular is fairly old.
Yeah, well, because they recently dropped. Remember, they dropped the price of the Komodo to $3,000.
Yep.
But it's kind of at this point, I don't think I would buy a Komodo.
No.
So
unless you just really needed a global shutter crash cam. It came out in 2023, so next May it'll be 3 years old. Okay. So it's still maybe a little ways before we see something like that. But I think that, you know, with it, we see the same things over and over, right? This partially stacked sensor just came out this year or like end of last year. I think that, you know, it's going to be a little while before we see like the next wave of like sensor technology and things coming through. And so, you know, something like a Nikon Komodo or whatever, maybe a bit farther down the line. But it's going to be really interesting what Nikon does here. They're probably going to start shipping things for that on multifunction hot shoe, I would hope. There's talk about them making their own cinema glass, and like they're leveraging this partnership with Red. They didn't just like eat them up to shut down stuff so they could ship Red raw. They are not red raw, so they could ship and raw and like just get rid of red. They're actually like using the partnership, and that's exciting.
Yeah. I'm really happy to see this. I think we hoped they would do this. I think if we had to guess, I think we probably thought this was going to happen, but it wasn't a guarantee. And it's cool to see that they're doing it. And I mean, I think this is a great first entry into that line. And for me, if anything, it just makes me curious to see like what does their C80 competitor look like, or like if they didn't constrain themselves to such a small body, like what would they be able to do?
Yeah. I think I'm like just as susceptible to everybody else to this camera, in that I think it looks really cool. And I think the red badging makes it really interesting, and the red codecs make it really interesting. And I feel like I'm more excited about this than I was excited about the Z6 III.
Yeah.
Even though they're like, that's literally the same camera.
I definitely feel that way, because it feels like this is something different, whereas the Z6 III felt like just another Nikon-shaped Nikon camera.
Yep. I also think that if you ignore the R3D, the Lumix S1 II is a better camera to buy.
Probably so, although it is $1,000 more.
It is $1,000 more, $1,100 more, but you get like, I assume that you don't get shutter angle on this thing.
I think you do.
Well,
pretty sure it can do shutter
Well, you know
angle.
what? Awesome.
Yeah.
You get more video support features.
For sure.
You get dynamic range boost. And I think then you get EVF, right?
Yeah,
and you get full-size HDMI port.
The handling and the body, I think, on the S1 II are just better than this. Like, except if you need something that fits in some tiny pouch in your backpack. Like excluding that, I think the S1 II handles better.
Yeah, I think for a lot of reasons, the S1 Mark II is a better camera than this. But I think that this is probably going to sell more because it's way cheaper and really exciting.
Yep. Well, and Nikon's got a good selection of lenses. And it feels like this is probably an entry into a bigger line. Like it feels like if you invested in this in a couple of years, you're going to have more good choices like this. Whereas with Panasonic, I don't think that, I think L mount is a good investment, but Panasonic, I don't know. I've wanted them to release like a box style, camera like the S1 II, and who knows when they will or if they will, so I think it's pretty certain that Nikon will be releasing more cinema cameras. So there's an upgrade path. Until
Panasonic buys Arri, they don't really have like, Nikon now has the V-Raptor, and it is on Z mount.
Yeah.
And so they are invested in producing real cinema lenses.
Yeah.
And now you can buy a $2,000 camera that will support the lenses that your future $25,000 camera will also support.
Yeah, kind of an interesting deal.
You just don't have that with L mount. You can get a lot of cool lenses, you can adapt a lot of cool lenses, but without there being an L mount cinema, well, I guess there's like the Blackmagic stuff now.
Yeah.
And maybe like that's where that grows.
I think that's why I bought into L mount was having that as a path and knowing that we're probably more likely to go with Blackmagic than other options, but it's not quite as good as it would be if Panasonic themselves were making like high-end cinema cameras that use that same mount.
I guess we'll just have to see where it goes, because Nikon's going to make Z stuff.
Yeah.
And Sigma's not going to make Z stuff. Tamron maybe will make more. I don't think Tamron's really made too many cinema lenses, but if, L mount, you have Leica and Blackmagic and Panasonic and Sigma and Viltrox, like all making these cinema lenses, then maybe there's a little more motivation there for all those companies to actually fill that out faster and better.
True.
But I guess we'll just see.
Yeah.
Just get some of those Viltrox anamorphics, slap them on your Pixus 12K, and you're just off to the races.
Yep. I don't know though. I think this looks pretty good. Like I said, I was surprised to see it. Just didn't think it would happen this soon. And it seems like a pretty cool camera.
Cool. Yeah, I got nothing else to add, man. This is like the first of our series of 4 cinema camera episodes.
Yep.
So it's gonna be
we'll have to review once we get through all the new stuff and see, kind of how all these new things stack up together. But I think this one's pretty exciting.
Top of the pile will be the GFX Eterna 55.
We'll see. That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.